All right. Hi, everyone. This is Hear Me Out in our mini series called Medium is the Message. I just want to see how you guys doing on this cold day up on the mountain.
I'm all right. You know what? I've been better, actually. I've been better.
What's going on that's making you feel not too good today?
Nothing much. Just lots of traffic. I don't know. Kind of down day. I think I had coffee too early. So it's
never a good
like,
thing.
No, so it's it's crashing.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah.
It's also like the week before reading break when we're recording this.
Yeah.
So the like pre-reading break slump is in full effect, at least for me.
I know we talked a little bit earlier that we don't have anything too crazy planned for our reading break, but Kofi, do you have anything interesting planned?
Sort of. I have one friend from out of town who's coming to visit.
Oh,
Very
nice.
fun.
Yeah. She's gonna stay for 4 days, I believe. I should probably narrow that down.
Getting close.
But yeah, I think we're gonna ski a day. We're going to the city one day, and it's just good. You know,
Nice.
people coming to town.
Yeah.
All
I
right.
got a couple things. Like I got friends coming in. I'm going to a work party at my work. Someone's hosting a potluck. I'm making an apple crisp.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Making for the potluck. Respect.
Yeah. Oh, you gotta show up.
I was thinking we should maybe dive in slightly into a little bit about what this mini-series is. I don't know how the best way to describe this, but maybe it's more of a current event, focused podcast, but with a Hear Me Out charm. How would you guys describe this mini-series and what you guys imagine it is?
I think that's a great way to describe it. We're still gonna be laughing, we're still gonna be chatting, we're gonna be gabbing, but we're gonna be talking a little bit more about communication news, communication technologies, things that are within the discourse of our major, whether or not it's things that are going on in the news or things that are happening here at SFU.
Yeah.
Just a little bit more of a controlled vibe, if you will.
Yeah. Anything else that we missing there, Kofi?
I think you guys nailed it. I couldn't say anything more to make that better.
All right. Perfect. Because I just wanted to talk to you guys, this is a little bit in the discourse, and when this comes out, I don't know how much this will be in the discourse then, but this is something in the news recently, because we all know, the new year has come with some big changes, and we're now in tariff times.
It has been a rough start to the new year.
Yes.
Yeah.
Chaotic.
2025 has been off to it's certainly making its mark.
Action packed.
Yep, that's a good way to put it.
It's been very entertaining, which is, I guess, has its pros and cons. But I wanted to focus on something a little bit more specific today. Have you guys? Yeah, you guys definitely noticed that there was a TikTok ban. A supposed TikTok ban that was I think that was only live for 24 hours, and it
like
might
that.
be on the horizon for longer in the U.S. in the future. But I don't know. When that was first announced, and maybe when it was implemented, because I'm not on TikTok, so it didn't really affect me too much. But what was your initial thoughts when it was announced? Let's start with when it was announced. What did you guys think? Because for me personally, I thought it was pretty funny, because I can care less about what happens with TikTok. I think it's just another platform that's just going to ruin us and ruin the fabric of society. But people, especially in certain classes I've had, would disagree with that, and they can't live without it, and they can't see a future without it. So I just want to see what you guys think. Open-ended question.
Open-ended question. I don't know. Well, I mean, we're all Canadians, so obviously we go to SFU. It's in Canada. We're probably not going to get any U.S. listeners, but maybe if we do, shout out. Hello. Hope you're doing well. Sending love. And yeah, so it obviously doesn't affect us to the same degree that it would anyone in the U.S. But what I thought was really funny was seeing all the creators posting, being like, TikTok is my life. I've built such a community here, which I can respect totally. I mean, I even follow some TikTok creators where, not I have a parasocial relationship to these people, but I'm I like their content and I like the sort of community that they've built. But there were definitely a lot of people freaking out. I even saw some people who were posting their deep secrets as there was this whole trend where it was before we get banned, there's one thing I have to say, and they would post some crazy conspiracy, or they would be all my content's fake, which is crazy. Not the road I would take.
Yeah, it must be incredibly awkward that next morning when you open the app back up.
Yeah.
Ooh. We're back, guys. We're back. Kofi, did you care? I don't know. I remember. Are you on TikTok at all? And did you care about what the impacts of that might be, and if it would come over to Canada? How would you feel? Anything like that?
I've been I swore TikTok off in like 2022, but
Okay.
I have since come back on that a few times. I managed to break the addiction by deleting it because me, as long with most people, I'm sure, the pandemic hit. What else you gonna do but scroll?
Yeah.
So then you get that, like, I had that like a relationship to it where I'm going to it to just scroll the time. So I was like, okay, let me delete this. That worked for a time, but with the app being removed itself, I am honestly a fan. As crazy as that sounds, it's not a hot take here. I'm a fan of it being deleted. Do I think scrolling's gone? No. Like, scrolling's here to stay. Like, there's Instagram Reels. Someone will make a competing platform.
Yeah.
That is bound
Facebook
to
Reels, YouTube Shorts.
YouTube Shorts.
Yeah.
Scrolling's everywhere.
It's everywhere.
Well,
TikTok is sorry. TikTok just the home of it. I think, like, the birthplace. TikTok was the most positive environment for scrolling.
I think TikTok's also like the most like brain rotty form of scrolling that exists because there's
100%.
no other option but to scroll.
Exactly.
Like, at least with other things, you could go to like more long form content, like on YouTube or on
Sure,
Instagram if you're like checking through your like social community. But TikTok is really about just
that
that
emotion. just
never
that
ending.
you know, like what was funny, like, because this will probably differ for like pretty much every other person. I don't know, like if I wonder who would agree with me on this or like have a similar experience as me. Is like during COVID, my scrolling actually declined because maybe I don't know, like I don't have the data to officially support that, but from how I feel, my personal narrative on it is that it actually went down because, like, since I had so much spare time, I decided I'm just gonna go all in on my long form content, whether that's like longer videos, movies, television shows, video games. If I did not just mention that now, and then I had like no reason to go on like Instagram as much or anything unless like just popping on the toilet for a little bit because like I like otherwise like why would I want to stare at my phone when I can play video games and have a better, more enriching experience for me personally.
Honestly, I really like. I think my experience was kind of similar. Like, I watched a lot of. It was like 6 p.m. hit and it was movie time. I watched like 2 movies every night. I got really into The Sims. Naturally, I think I also tried to get into like puzzling and like go to like the grandma hobbies of the world just to like ease my mind. But yeah.
I am, I guess, on the other side of the fence here. Mine went up. Not saying my other stuff also didn't go up. I also consumed a lot of other content, but I found myself, maybe it was the novelty. Wasn't really on TikTok until the pandemic. So for me, and I'm sure with a lot of other people, it was like brand new. And this was like the community. This was the only place where the world was. You know what I mean? Like the world was. This is the only place you could see like community, and it was new. And it had that. Instagram, I feel like, always had that addictive element. Like we've always known that, but not in the way that like TikTok did. Like Twitter had it, not in the way that was. Like,
I think what TikTok did really well, like, and does really well maybe, is making light of a really negative situation. Like, in the pandemic, TikTok was definitely the place that you went to like make a whipped coffee and have some fun or like whatever. Or even now, like, that's sort of the platform where you go to disengage from any like political content. There's still a lot of political content on every social media platform. You can't escape it. But it's definitely the place to go to get the most removal from that and to just like bond with a community.
definitely. I don't know.
So I wanted to quickly move on to another question for you guys. When should a platform get banned? But before we get into that, I want to take a quick break. We're back. So I just wanted to ask you guys a little question. We kind of might have dived in a little bit earlier, but I feel like maybe we can get more in specifics of what do you think the pros and cons of, let's say, TikTok getting banned. And let's say we can always dive into specifics on if it's just banned in America and maybe if it was just banned in general. I want to say one pro is that there's maybe like a higher chance of people being like, let's say TikTok showed them how good an app like that could be. Yeah. And then they realized Instagram isn't that good. And then since TikTok isn't there, they didn't want to go back to shit. And then they were like, you know what, maybe I'll stop going on social media a little bit more. But I don't think that's going to like maybe it's not like a proper pro because it probably wouldn't happen. But that's like maybe I kind of want to be more positive nowadays since everything's so bleak this year so far. So that's my little bit of a half glass full part of it. Do you guys want to start off with a strong pro or con?
Can I build on that,
of course,
pro?
yeah.
I like making like a. I'm going to call myself like an artist, not like in any sort of capacity, but I like
Okay.
making things, like any sort of creative outlet. I think TikTok was the best platform that's ever been created for that. Like,
Agreed.
look at all the musical artists and talented people you see on that who got a platform to present what they've made to the world, and a lot of time make careers out of it. That's something that's unheard of. Like before, back in the day, which is only like 5 years ago.
Yeah.
But if you wanted to like say you did make music and that was your bag, and your interests were there, you would have to really go grassroots, like local. I'm not saying that's bad, but your chances of mainstream success incredibly low.
Was the YouTube not good enough for you? For that
I don't think
to you
YouTube
guys?
gave the same like virality, if that's even a word. I don't
Yeah.
think that's a word. That like TikTok gave. That's a great point. I think like so many different perspectives were highlighted with TikTok, and like that didn't get the platforms that maybe the YouTube algorithm doesn't let them have, or the sort of content that Instagram's looking for.
And like the success for people in smaller markets.
Yeah.
I think a lot of the time with like music and a lot of art things, if you were in a big market and you could get yourself out there, the world was yours, so you had that opportunity. But if you were in like a small town, even here, for example, and there was people here who had big songs, like someone I know who lives in my suburban neighborhood had a big song on TikTok and got to perform. Like that is something that he could have never dreamed of doing, but he got to. Was it like a meme song? Yes, but like still, like, it's just I think that's the fantastic side of TikTok, and that deserves to be highlighted. However,
I think to build on that point, I guess this would be a con for the platform being banned, in the same way that would be a con. I think there was a lot of really positive like social activism that's happened on TikTok throughout the years, like when all the genocide that's happening in Palestine right now, and all the content being put onto TikTok for people, families trying to fundraise, people trying to advocate against the violence that was happening. I think that is removing that platform for people to do that is definitely a con in my eyes.
Two questions, one for Kofi and one for you. Okay. How many artists do you regularly listen to that you found through TikTok?
Ooh, not so many anymore, but for sure when I was younger, I would say when I was still on TikTok the first time, so let's say 2021, I would say maybe 15 to 20%.
Okay. And then for you, how many? Well, I guess we'll focus on it solely through TikTok. In this question, I don't know if this question can be really answered, so I don't know if I'm putting you in a tough position
best.
here. I hope you will. How much of an impact do you think TikTok has done for improving, like, making movements, helping movements make a difference for real?
That's a good question. I think that there's a lot of small impact and a lot of small change that's being happened, and sometimes that small change can totally snowball into larger change. But in terms of like larger social movements, I definitely don't think TikTok's the place for that to happen. I think that has to happen at an institutional level, at a governmental level, whatever. But even things like, this is like super, not low stakes, but like someone fundraising for their dog who has cancer. I've seen things like that happen on TikTok, and people get the funds that they normally wouldn't be able to advocate and fundraise for through online platforms. So I think in ways like that, it can really achieve good and positive change.
Do you think those? I'm gonna like generalize here. Do you think that like the negatives of, let's say, a TikTok or a social media app? Do you think those pros that you mentioned? Do you think they those little impacts they do outweigh maybe like those some of the negative impacts of like a TikTok social media?
Interesting.
App?
I don't know. I think a lot of the negative sort of implications are a lot of like, the doom scrolling and things like that, and the like inability to consume long form content is definitely something that I think is a big problem, especially for a lot of the younger generation who doesn't have a time or attention span anymore. Do I think the good outweighs the bad? I don't know. I don't have all the answers to those questions, but
I'm gonna build on does the good outweigh the bad? Because I was thinking of like building on what you're saying about like attention spans and stuff, like things like that. I think our world is so digital. Like I don't know if it's a good thing to be able to see that many of your interests every day. Like I don't think that's good. I think that raises like for me the problem I was getting was like especially as I said almost the duality of the exact point I just brought up was like the other side of that. It made me feel bad about myself. I was like, damn, I suck at this. Like I used to like doing like a graphic designer making videos and I'd watch people online. I'm like, holy, like I'm horrible.
Yeah, and the reality is that you like no one's horrible at the thing they're doing, and also social media is so like dialed and so like I mean you hear of it all the time, but like social media is so fake, and it is, and I think that gets like ignored a lot of the time, and I definitely have suffered from like comparison issues on social media as well, being like I'm not living my life in the right way, I'm not
absolutely
at the right point in my life, I'm not doing these things that I should be doing, when the reality of those creators is so different than what they show online. I think that message can get lost a lot of the time.
I think we'll save this for another episode, but like I think it totally dives into your point, and I'm like I always have so much to say, and I speak about this a lot. And one of my blog posts that I was going to release last year, then I said I couldn't crack it, was about this. So it's going to come this semester because I really want to write it. But anyways, it's just about how we move to a world where everything is so curated to our individualness that we no longer see each other, the people that are different, as
That's a great point.
human, maybe, or just being able to communicate with that, and just having those conversations in person, where we can actually discuss and see a person as a human being, and just in general being connected with your community as a community, like your neighbor, not just a community, a digitized community where because I feel like a lot of people are disconnected to the people that are around them. But we're getting a little too out of the pros and cons of TikTok. So I want to dive, I also want to like, I don't want to dive into much of that part because I feel like we're going to get in the wrong track. But I do want to open this up a little bit, but we're going to come back with a new guest. So we'll see you right in a moment.
I'm Scott.
I'm Ashley.
I'm Maya.
And we're the events team, and we're inviting you to Industries in Motion on March 22nd.
Come by and participate in our reception, listen to interesting panels, and network with industry professionals.
We'll also have free food, a photo booth, and a raffle giveaway.
And we're back. I wanted to open up the floor to, anyway, before I get into it, sorry. Hello, this is Amy here. And for listeners, Amy's here. We all know Amy by now.
Amy.
Hi.
Hear me out regular.
How are you doing, Amy?
Me? I'm so hungry. I have not eaten anything.
Well, it's going to be a long time till you eat
I know.
soon. So I want to quickly ask you, because we did talk a little bit when Kofi was on. Did you have any thoughts in general before we dive into my final question for the group here about like the pros and cons TikTok, your initial ban of like, yeah, I guess TikTok, and then your thoughts on just a ban in general and that whole discourse?
I think with like the TikTok ban, I feel like a lot of because I'm on TikTok instead of like Reels, I refuse to go on Reels. Terrible. A lot of the things that I do see on Reels, like the videos are from TikTok. So I feel like if TikTok did get banned, I think we would see more content on Reels and YouTube Shorts. But that's a thought that I had. Pros and cons, I don't really care if it goes away or not. It's an app. I'm sure there's going to be another app if it goes.
I will say I wanted to add, I think it's interesting that like Donald Trump was the one who banned it, and then he like puts himself as the hero that saves it.
My son Barron, he talked to me about it.
You know,
TikTok's great.
Slightly off topic on that. I just remember like the whole like in regard to like the NAFTA and trade in North America. I just love how there's like a video of him, and we'll go back on topic in a second, but how he's like, who signed these agreements? Who signed these? These are horrible. This is the worst. And then, you know who signed those agreements? It was him. But then you know how.
Classic Trump.
But typical America. But we won't get into hating America too much right now. But
They made crumble cookie. Let's have some respect.
All right, touche. I just want to ask you guys a quick question. Not a quick question. The question of the evening. when do you think an app should be banned? Like, do you think there should be bans on apps, or just like, what are you guys' thoughts on that? Because I recently had that question asked to me, and I just heard a lot of people just have like very protective thoughts on apps, and I guess these kind of platforms, that just kind of surprised me, because people are like, the government, man, taking our. And I'm like, these are theoretically elective officials, but then you're okay with like privatized companies holding your information. It's just a weird. Like, I'm not 100% like, I love the government, right? Like, it has its role, right? And checks and balances are important. But so like, I'll start off with my like general thought, just to give you guys a quick second, just to gather yours. I think when a platform or an app becomes so influential, but like there's a chance that it might, the information that's held is sent to a government that has a little too much control. I just want to put out there, I think there should be a world where apps can get banned, and that's okay. Because I don't like the idea that people hold their idea of freedom of expression and speech through if their ability to use the app, when you always have it because you can just walk right now. If you really care that much, you go walk in front of the parliament with the sign and you can protest yourself, and that's real freedom of speech. But people just kind of acquaint that to they only see themselves as like their ability to be free in a digitalized sense, and I find that kind of concerning. That's
an interesting point. I think that a lot of people, like you said, think that freedom of speech can only exist in digital platforms, and it's certainly like I think digital platforms give a lot of ease, and they allow people to have freedom of speech that they might not have the space or courage to do so, whether or not it's like influence from their environment or whatever. But I definitely think that in terms of like platforms being banned, I think for me it's when a platform becomes so one-sided and so littered in one perspective that it doesn't offer nuance in the terms of what perspectives it's giving. So Facebook right now is very, we've all seen Facebook. You know what Mark Zuckerberg is doing, and it's very right-wing politics, and the rabbit holes that it creates, whether or not it's you're going through something, and I've seen this even on YouTube. You look up one thing and then eventually it leads you to like right-wing politics and all these other rabbit holes that you go down. So I think that when it's not able to value both perspectives is when a platform should maybe be banned.
I totally agree. Because like in my head is like, we just don't want China to own it. And then it's because like
it's just xenophobia.
The thing is like,
it's straight up xenophobia.
I think that's just what
is China going to do with my data?
That the US is.
I think that's the
exactly.
It's like,
exactly.
Would like,
I mean, they're both bad. I think like.
What are your thoughts?
I think like in should a platform get banned? I don't know, when it has unsolicited photos of children, nudity, hate crime, hate speech.
That's a good criteria.
Like yeah. I mean, either or, a platform, like no matter what platform you're gonna like go on, it's gonna be bad either or. There's gonna be one side or another. Like look at Tumblr for example. It got bought off to Yahoo, and then they banned porn completely, and then the app was like the platform was all dead. And then Yahoo was like, oh, why aren't we making money? Because, like, the demographic of people there, a lot of them were looking at, like, fan art of that type of stuff, Or, like, Vine.
Yeah.
I heard that Vine did it, like...
But even, like, Twitter has a lot of, like, nudity and content. Like, Twitter, you could post anything on Twitter.
Yeah.
And it stays there.
Yeah.
Reddit.
I saw, like...
Reddit, too, yeah. Even if it's censored, like, you can still... say to see it, like
yeah. I just saw porn on like Twitter the other day. I was on Kanye's page just checking out his tweets, and like I opened like the restrict, and it's just literally like just porn.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, okay then. Like,
on a side note, did you guys see the Grammys red carpet?
Oh, I was just thinking that. Poor Bianca.
I find it so hilarious that like
her being naked.
I feel awful for her. I think she was forced into doing that.
Yeah, like I felt like I heard this. I don't know. I don't want to say too much on that because it's a bit absurd.
Next time
Next time
we'll talk about Bianca and Kanye.
That's true.
All about Kanye. Yeah. Terrible.
Let's end on that note. Let's censor Sensori. Sensory. Is that her name? Last name? Sensory.
I don't know.
Sensory.
Maybe let's do a quick
Sensory.
round of just like hot seat, quick answer. Do you think TikTok should be banned?
I don't care. I think as consumers or passive consumers, we should have some media literacy on what we're like, viewing.
That's
Like why are we blaming the app? Why are we trusting everything that we see? And there's so much information and misinformation that, I know it's hard, but seriously, like media literacy is just gone. But that's my take.
Matthew, quick hot take.
Should get banned. Hey, what the hell? I think why not? What do we have to lose? We can. All the information you can find on TikTok, you can find elsewhere. If it's not that as fast or not that curated, I think that's for the better. So yeah, hello. What the hell? What do you think, Emma?
My answer would also be sure. Why not? Get rid of it. We don't need it anymore.
There you have it. Thank you for listening to the first
Thank
episode
you.
of Hear Me Out. Medium is a message. Bye, everyone.
Bye.